This episode of The Biggest Table is brought to you in part by Wild Goose Coffee. Since 2008, Wild Goose has sought to build better communities through coffee. For our listeners, Wild Goose is offering a special promotion of 20% off a one-time order using the code TABLE at checkout. To learn more and to order coffee, please visit wildgoosecoffee.com. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Biggest Table. I am your host, Andrew Camp, and in this podcast, we explore the table, food, eating, and hospitality as an arena for experiencing God's love and our love for one another. And today, I'm joined by Laura Baghdassarian Murray. Laura is the Director of Spiritual Engagement and Innovation at Fuller Seminary Center for Spiritual Formation. She is the author of Pray As You Are, serves on the Ministry Collaborative Advisory Board, and previously served at Highland Park Presbyterian Church as the pastor of spiritual formation. Laura is also the founder of the Digital Silent Retreat Ministry, which is rooted in the practice of hospitality to provide brave and courageous space for people to connect with God and others. Her newest book is Becoming a Person of Welcome, which was just published by InterVarsity. She lives in the Dallas area with her husband and 2 children. So thanks for joining me today, Laura. It's great to connect and excited to talk about hospitality.
So glad to be here. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, so we'll just start here because what is your story of hospitality and how has it formed you both like good and bad as you think about your life?
Yeah, it's interesting. When somebody asked me why I chose to write on hospitality, I said, I really think it found me. Like I wasn't searching for it, and it did find me. And so hospitality has been a part of my life, but I didn't really recognize it.
Right.
And so it kind of emerged a few years ago. And it emerged during the pandemic, interestingly enough, when we couldn't be physically hospitable as much to people. And so it emerged because I noticed I was having a hard time connecting with God. Others were having a hard time connecting with God. And I thought, what if I created a space on Zoom where they could connect with God and with one another on retreat? So a few hours of a silent retreat. And so I just experimented with it. And people would come and meet with God. And then they actually would spend time in the last hour of the retreat encouraging one another, being courageous with one another, being vulnerable with one another. And we continued doing these retreats monthly. And what I found is that that last hour of the community and connection was really powerful. And so as I continued to experiment with the retreats, I realized that hospitality was a major component and that hospitality could be taken to the digital space. And then I started researching hospitality. I looked at scripture about hospitality. My doctoral project was on hospitality and taking connection and this sense of belonging into the digital space. And so that's kind of where it emerged. And then it just started rolling from there.
For sure. That's really interesting because, you know, like you said, we don't think of hospitality in the digital space. And so like how did you have to wrestle with hospitality in different ways than if it was a like physical in-person gathering? Because I think, you know, creating a space online is very different than creating a space in a home. And so like how did that then challenge or maybe help you nuance hospitality in different ways?
I think for me, since I wasn't looking to solve the problem of hospitality, I was simply offering something that I thought people needed. So I was simply offering it.
Yeah. And
then it emerged, if that makes sense. All of a sudden I found myself needing to dive deeper into it.
Okay.
So that's how it emerged actually, which is interesting because I think sometimes we pursue things or explore things and it's good to research. It's good to, explore and things. But I also think it's great to experiment because when we experiment or try things, when we see a problem or we want to see if there's a possible solution, what emerges is maybe the thing we should be digging into. If that makes sense, like the experiment comes first and then you dig into it rather than digging into it first and then doing the experiment. Yeah. And it can go both ways.
My personality is I want to know all the information before I experiment because I want it to be safe. Whereas, you know, like your posture might be a little more for me, it sounds riskier. Like, oh, well, what if I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm doing? What if I fail? What if? What if? And
Yeah.
that sounds really interesting. And so like, then as you began to dig in, like who and what books maybe or authors or
Mhm.
people like what streams of hospitality did you draw on?
Yeah, that's a great question because there were a lot.
Yeah.
And first of all, I went back to scripture, like
Right.
biblical scripture, and just saying, okay, how is hospitality extended and how have we gotten away from it?
Hmm.
And so kind of looking at that, um, Jude Tiersma Watson, who is a professor at Fuller Seminary, she had a brief video on hospitality and how she talked about hospitality as a posture of the heart.
Hmm.
And I loved that language. And I really held on to that language and started to flesh that out, that
Right.
it's a posture that we carry with us. Christine Pohl, a
Yeah.
Pohl, she was great on that. Amy Oden as well.
Hmm.
And then a non-Christian, I mean, she has a faith background, but a non-Christian voice was Priya Parker, and she
Yes.
wrote a book called The Art of Gathering. I mean, just if you
Yeah.
know, you're a
Yep.
hospitality person, she's like the guru, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Her work is gold on that. And so those different voices, and there were other voices as well that came in that really helped to establish kind of the foundation, if you will. Like I
Right.
was experimenting with it, but then I needed to deepen that foundation and make it stronger. And so those are some of the voices that did that.
And so then as you think, writing a book on hospitality with all these giants, that have gone before you, like
Yeah, yeah.
where do you hope like your book taps into something then like that is needed in the Christian hospitality understanding that, other people may not have not missed, but maybe
Sure.
didn't emphasize like you emphasized
Yeah, or just maybe adding
to
to
conversation.
the
Yeah.
conversation.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I my hope really is that it opens up people's imagination of what welcome can be
Hmm.
and where it can happen. And so I think if we open ourselves up to that imagination of what it can look like, then it opens up the possibility of what God is doing in and through us to our neighbor, to the world, to the stranger, to the friend. And so my hope is actually, I was telling somebody this the other day, I don't want really people to remember the words that I wrote, but I hope that it opens up in them this sense of imagination and
Hmm.
this sense of lingering that then it has turned into a posture that they're carrying with them wherever they go. So I think imagination is the big piece.
That's cool. Yeah. Because what is possible, because I think we're all wrestling in this moment, whatever side we're on,
Yes.
like we're all imagining and trying to think through, like, okay, what does it actually mean to
Yes.
be hospitable, to be kind, to maybe just be a human?
Yeah. Right.
And so like that's where I love your idea that, this is a posture we carry,
Hmm.
and to quote, Priya Parker, whose book has influenced, many of us. If you're in the church world and you're thinking about what it means to gather, like Priya Parker's book is
Hmm.
absolutely gold.
Hmm.
But she talks about the Martha Stewart principle that we've sort of reduced hospitality to this readying of things over readying of people, whereas you're asking
Mm,
us to carry this posture of welcome.
mhm,
And so,
mhm,
why is posture so important as we think about hospitality in this moment?
mhm. Yeah, that's a great question. I think about posture, like I even think about it in the physical sense, that it's something internal to us. It's discipline, it's practice that we've
Yeah.
done internally that we carry with us. Like if you think about your physical posture, right? If you're going to work on it, if you want to stand up straighter for some reason, or you don't want to have a hunchback later on in life, there are things that you're doing, disciplines that you're doing in order to be able to have that posture. And so for me, posture is who we are on the inside
Mm.
because it doesn't matter what we do on the outside. If the inside doesn't have that posture, people can tell.
Yep.
It'll come back around. The inauthenticity is there as well. And I think in our culture, and we've always needed this, but especially now, we need authentic people. We need
Yeah.
people that truly do love others, truly are curious about others, and not because we're trying to get something from them, not because we're trying to get them to calm something within us. Like
Mm.
we're not trying to use them, but we're truly being welcoming. And I think until we cultivate that posture that includes freedom and curiosity, we won't really be able to extend hospitality without a string attached.
No, I love that. But, as we think about it as a posture, when I was getting ready for this podcast, like, it's not a comforting posture. Like, it's not a natural posture of us. Like, I believe
Yeah.
our heart is capable of so much good, but also, so much division. And so, like, it's not something maybe that comes naturally, or we think, hey, I'm not good at it, therefore I don't need to practice it. So, like, how do we begin then to, like, get past the discomfort, and really sort of, at least, like you said, experiment? Like, maybe we don't have all the information, but we need to take a first step. And so, like, how do we get
Yeah.
past that fear, or maybe that insecurity we may feel as we think about becoming a person of welcome?
Yeah, those are real things. And I also want to say this isn't just for extroverts,
No,
right? This is
no.
for, this is not just for those who want to say hi to everybody on the street. I mean, this is really um, having this posture to do what we can as God calls us to do it.
Right.
So it's this readiness. And I would say experiments can be really small.
Hmm.
And the experiments are really a way of practicing. And so I think even experimenting with slowing down and asking questions of somebody in your family,
Hmm.
right? So somebody near you. So it's a safe experiment. You can ask curious questions or ask them to develop a thought further, not shifting the conversation or something like that. So there are small experiments. And as I think about experiments, another way to say is small practices. So when you think again that physical description, if you're working on your posture, there are physical exercises that you're going to do in the gym. There are things that you might need some physical therapy. There are small practices that you're going to
Right.
do. Now you may not get them. Your form might be off at first. Your
Yeah.
trainer
Yeah.
or somebody might be able to help you. And so I would say that truly it is practicing it until it becomes a posture and
Hmm.
it's less and less uncomfortable. There might still be some courage, boldness, and it might still be uncomfortable at times. But if you've practiced it enough to know that there's something good on the other side, there's more of an incentive to do it. And the
Hmm.
other thing I would say too is practice it like with other people. Like it's
Yeah.
far more easier to work on these things with others than by yourself.
Yeah.
And so I would say try it with other people and see how it goes and talk about it. And so I don't want to paint the picture that it's everybody having to say hi to everybody,
No.
but it's just this open posture to be aware of what's going on in the world, what's going on, even if it's the person right in front of you for 2 minutes.
Right. Because, this podcast is going to come out in November, which leads us right into the holidays. And so there's
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be, like, the opportunity, which some people may cringe at because they know what the
Right.
Thanksgiving or Christmas table may look like.
Yeah.
So, like, you said this phrase that there's good on the other side, but I think a
Yeah.
lot of us, because of the divisions in our society
Mhm.
right now, we don't see that good on the other side. Like,
Yeah.
like, why pursue this? Because, like,
Mm.
it feels at times that, like, if I ask my family member a question and to be curious when we disagree vehemently, like, there's no good on the other side, it feels
Mm.
like. But I want to
Mm.
believe there's good. And I think people
Mhm.
want to believe, but we don't
Mhm.
see it yet. So, like,
Mhm.
when you say that there's good on the other side, like, what are
Mhm.
you imagining?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to ask the question in regards to what do we define as good,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If there, so the good on the other side could be relational connection. The good on the other side could be a meaningful moment. The good on the other side could be a laugh. The good on the other side, is it agreement? Not necessarily.
No.
Is good on the other side that you never have an argument again? I mean, you hope for that, but not necessarily. So I I think, and this goes back to kind of thinking about what is it that we desire, but also can we imagine what the other person needs?
Hmm.
And we can't always know that. But if I desire for a mending of a relationship, what can I do then to offer that or
Hmm.
cultivate that? And then I got to let go of the results.
Yeah.
But I think we have to decide what that desire of good is on the other side.
Hmm.
And we have to talk to God about, okay, God, if the good comes, amazing. And if the good doesn't come, then we grieve that.
Yeah.
And I think that's also where the courage comes in, because hospitality is courageous,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's uncomfortable.
Right.
So I think for us to imagine, what is the good we hope for? What is the good we long for?
Hmm.
And to be able to sit with ourselves long enough to say, this is actually what I long for. I haven't had it with this person, but this is what I long for. And I'm going to try for it and then
Yeah.
just see what happens.
And I love that because you talk about, coercive hospitality or counterfeit hospitality, where, sometimes hospitality is used where we have to limit ourselves. But you're asking us
Mm-hmm.
to step into this fullness of hospitality. And for me, I
Mm-hmm.
always come back to Henry Nouwen and his ideas of hospitality, of the creation of
Mm-hmm.
a free space where the other can be who God has truly desired them to be,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very non-coercive
Mm-hmm.
posture where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, who is this person that God has placed in front of me versus who
Right.
do I want this person to be?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that one of the ways we do that is we grieve what we can't have, what hasn't been,
Right.
but we also hope for what might be and hold it loosely and trust God that He's going to provide good, or He's going to meet us in our grief again.
Yeah. And there may come a point, and Caleb Campbell, he's a pastor in Phoenix and we've connected, but he talks a lot about Christian nationalism and the posture of hospitality, of where if we can be a welcoming presence to, a relative, a friend who may hold opposing views, when their world comes crashing down, maybe that grief will drive them back towards us because we were loving.
Mm.
And so whether,
Mm.
it may not be a Christian nationalist friend or
Yeah.
neighbor or relative, but like, if I can provide a welcoming presence for the
Yeah.
other,
Mm-hmm.
when their world comes crashing down, they may see me as a safe person,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
they can then process everything
Mm-hmm.
going on with them. So the rewards the good that you're
Yeah.
talking about may
Yeah.
not come right away, but down the line, if I continue
Yeah.
to be this welcoming presence
Mm-hmm.
where they can flourish, then they may come to me with other questions.
Right. Right. And that really is a lot of hospitality, is that we're creating an environment
Right.
of welcome. We can't make people receive our welcome. We can't
No.
make people receive hospital. We can't, and I think letting that go of just going, all we can do is, figuratively or literally set the table,
Yep.
set the table how God is calling us to, set the table that we believe will serve another person. And then whether they eat from it or take from it or receive it, then that's on them. And I think that's the inner freedom that is needed in the posture,
Hmm.
to not expect that that person's response is going to affect my sense of loving them or my sense of freedom.
Yeah. Because when we're a host, we want that praise that, oh, you're such a great host. Like you're such a good, and the host has a lot of power. And it's good to be a
Mhm.
host, but I think you mentioned like taking on hospitality also involves really welcoming this posture of being a guest. And so
Mhm.
how can being a guest help us practice sort of a non-coercive or maybe counterfeit hospitality?
Yeah, yeah, I love it. It's interesting. It's great that Christians want to do good or provide
Right.
spaces of good. Yet we often forget the good that it was provided for us, the good
Yeah.
that God gave to us. And
Mhm.
so when we practice being the guest with God, because
Yeah.
He's the first host,
Right.
when we practice that, we realize, oh, here's where my need is. This is what I need,
Mm.
or this is what it's like to feel alone and need somebody. This is what it's like to be broken and need the care of someone else. This is what it's like, as scripture says, remember what it was like to be the stranger. You're
Yeah.
able to go back to your own humanity and your own need. And so being the guest actually allows us to be empathic and aware
Hmm.
of others. It makes us realize how much power we actually don't have.
Yeah.
And it also helps us to clarify, what is it that we actually need? What is it
Hmm.
actually that we're looking for? And so being a guest really brings in the opportunity for humility, which I think then goes into being humble as a host.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think too, remembering, and you talk about it, the hospitality of creation, that God created this beautiful, abundant, hospitable world for, for our enjoyment. And like, we don't live in a scarcity we don't live in a scarcity world, but this abundant God who created a world for all of humanity to flourish. Like, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a different understanding than, well, there's limited resources.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta hoard. I gotta,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
draw in on myself or collapse in on myself,
Mm-hmm.
or the heart turned in on itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, this again, remembering this God who is hospitable,
Mm-hmm.
is so foundational.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so then, like, so yeah, that foundation that this God is ever welcoming us, and yet we live in this world that wants to war against these ideas. And so, like,
Yeah.
as you've wrestled with this, like, how does hospitality become a tool of subversive, a subversive tool to counteract maybe like
Mm.
what the world, whether it's economic realities, whether it's
Yeah.
principalities, powers, government, whatever it is, like,
Yeah.
there's so much that might want to tear it. Like, how
Mhm.
does hospitality become this tool of subversiveness for us today?
Mm. Mm. Yeah, hospitality, especially when we imagine that it can happen with one person or 100 people. It can happen in a home, in a church, or out with others, wherever. It becomes something that helps us to look out for people as they are lonely, as they are wounded, the places that they are broken. And in this posture of slowing down and of seeing, there is the opportunity to be a part of mending wounds,
Hmm.
to be a part of helping, uh, if it's a small wound or even maybe a larger wound. It takes a lot to mend a large wound. So I'm not saying one person can do that,
No.
but it does contribute, or it does maybe provide some medicine.
Yeah.
And if it's a small paper cut, which I think for many people, we have a lot of paper cuts
Yeah.
that we're bleeding out of rather than one big wound,
Hmm.
it helps heal even those smaller paper cuts. Just those moments where you have in conversation with somebody who really sees you and listens to you, even if it's for a few minutes, that lingers.
Yeah.
And I would even say that's contagious,
Hmm.
because what that person then carries, what they just sensed, and then it's contagious in that it goes out to other people. And so I would say that what hospitality does is it creates this ripple effect and this contagion,
Hmm.
even in little moments.
I love that because so often we're like, okay, there's these huge problems we got to solve, and if we can just help people see the error of their ways, like, the world
Yeah.
would be made right. And it's easy to think that way. It's easy to get trapped in that, and I want to get trapped in that because I want an easy solution. But I think
Hmm.
your invitation to hospitality is, okay, how can I, that ripple effect, how can I just show
Hmm.
kindness that can carry forward?
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
and I just was even like, you were speaking, and, like that small moment. And it made me have this memory of like, during my master's degree, I had to take a 3-week solitude retreat.
Oh,
And
wow.
I came back, and I was working at a Christian camp. And my first day on the job is I had to work like a high school winter camp to provide pizza for like 300 high schoolers, and so coming from pure solitude and very deep connection to like this chaotic world.
Yeah.
But in that moment, like, there was a friend who had done the same program, Jamin Goggin. He was up there with his youth group, and he saw me and he's like, "How are you doing, Andrew?" And I said, "I just got back from my 3-week retreat." And he just put his hand on my shoulder and took a
Mm.
breath with me. And like,
Hmm.
that's all I needed in this hospitality
Mhm.
welcome,
Mhm.
to be like, okay,
Mhm.
somebody sees me. Like, I just
Mhm.
needed somebody to see me in that
Mhm.
moment.
Mhm.
Uh, and
And that story has stayed with you,
yeah,
right? That moment has stayed with you. Those moments stay.
yeah, yeah. And so I would just encourage listeners, like, what is that moment that where you have received that welcome,
Mhm.
where you can then
Mhm.
hold it so it can be
Mhm.
a reminder, a grounding experience
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
others.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And it probably required that friend to slow down,
Yeah.
to be able to kind of have the noise quiet, even though it wasn't quiet,
No.
but to internally get quiet so that he could see you.
Yeah. And maybe that's the heart of hospitality, is who sees me and who can I see in this world
Mm.
today.
Mhm.
Um,
That's a great picture. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and so what I loved about your book is, like, your book isn't just theoretical, like you're asking us to actually practice it, which is awesome, because I sometimes think, I just need my spiritual disciplines of prayer, reading, scripture, or
Mm.
solitude, whereas, okay, what are the postures and the practices to take to others? And
Mhm.
so, like, how are those practices formed for you, and like, how did you go about choosing each discipline, or like like, what was your
Yeah.
thought process as you put this book together?
Oh, that you are making my brain go back like a year
I'm
or
sure.
so.
Yes, yes, that's right. Yes, the
Like,
book.
oh my gosh, what was my thought process of I don't um, most of them were practices I had done or been a part of. So they
Right.
were not unfamiliar
Hmm.
to me. And then here's the other part. I think because I'm more experimental and intuitive, I think I just played with them. Like,
Yeah.
because if you look at the practices, they're not, what cultivating vision, like how is that a practice? Or,
Right. Yeah.
they're kind of not these traditional practices. And so I honestly, it was just kind of an intuitive, what I had practiced before, what I had seen before, and also what I knew connected with the scripture story and the stories that were told in them.
Hmm.
And so I knew I wanted the practices uh, to be in addition to what a lot of Christians normally practice, which is intercessory prayer, corporate worship,
Hmm.
and Bible study, and sometimes,
Yeah.
solitude, but not most people. Yeah.
No. Right. And so then, how can we use these practices in community? Because hospitality, it's it's not just a me and God moment. It starts there, like you talked about, but truly, we're taking this posture to others. And so, how do you see your book working in community, so where we can,
Mhm.
create communities even of welcome,
Yes.
to help, others feel welcome, or just ourselves feel welcome? Like, what's
Yeah.
the role of community in hospitality?
Mhm. I'm so glad that you asked this question because it made me actually go back to the roots of how it all started. And it all started in community.
Yeah.
Like the book has many individual practices, but it really started in community, and it started on those digital silent retreats. And it actually expanded then into me working with uh, churches to help them clarify
Hmm.
things, and as well as their welcome, whether it was the welcome on their website that it would put out or their welcome as people would come in the door. And so I actually had a cohort that I ran. It was called Digital Hospitality Cohort,
Wow. Yeah.
and so we did these in these different ways. And so it was actually birthed in community. And the one of the main places that I would point people to is in the chapter on cultivating vision,
Hmm.
because at the end it really walks through how does somebody create a vision of welcome and hospitality, and how do you do that? You can do that communally,
Yeah.
to be able to look and say, what who are we, like, realistically,
Hmm.
um discerning what God is calling us to provide. I mean, what are the needs around us?
Yeah.
What is our work of welcome? What is our work of hospitality? And so, whether it's in your city, whether it's internally at your church for your group, but really hospitality, how it looks outward. And so you cultivate this vision, you do that with one another, and it's through discernment. It's through asking about your values. It's asking about what's the purpose that God is calling us to. And then the thing about developing, cultivating that in community is that you can hold one another accountable to say, hey, like we're getting out of our vision or we're getting out of our values. Like, let's bring this back. And you're able to say, is that really ministering to people? Is that really serving them? And something that I've learned just throughout my life is it's just a lot more fun to do it with people. It's a lot messier too, but it is just a lot more fun to be able to serve with people and to be able to do that with one another. And scripturally, when you look back, hospitality was practiced in a community.
Right.
And I think sometimes we take it as the individual host or the individual at the house or the individual as and you can do it individually, but it's meant to be carried communally.
I love that. Yeah. Because scripture was written to a much more communal culture than our individualistic. And you come from an Armenian background. Like, how did that play into your understanding of hospitality? I'm because I would assume that Armenians are much more cultural, communal. In who they are. And so like how has that shaped you?
You know, yes. So there was, I mean, the communal gatherings were large. They were fun. Anybody could come. I mean, it was like really, there wasn't really a guest list. It's like anybody could come to them. And so that was one piece. Another part of the Armenian culture is that the guest is who is central. That everything is dropped for the sake of the guest. Everything is it's just for the sake of the guest. You if somebody comes over, you eat less because your guest has to eat. I mean, it really is about the guest. And the other thing that it's that they don't have to have agreement. I mean, the banter and the arguing and all that, like there's like you can still argue and be friends. Like it just is that way. And my husband would say, well, and y'all are pretty loud too. I'm like, we can be really loud. But we also I think I was thinking about this. The Armenian culture is also a storytelling culture. And I think that's different than a logic, culture.
Right.
And so conversation is storytelling and conversation is exchanging back and forth rather than a rational argument with information, which not every conversation is that, I think, in other cultures, but it tends to be logical when you're talking with it. And whereas Armenian culture, again, my husband jokes, he goes, when y'all argue or when y'all have a conversation, y'all get louder and louder, but y'all are saying the same thing, but it sounds like you're arguing. I was like, oh, we're just, like it's just part of the culture. And so I think it's also different too, that the Armenian culture is a storytelling culture. And so in hospitality, storytelling is huge. Eugene Peterson said that stories are verbal acts of hospitality. And so when we talk with one another, that we ask for stories, and you can ask for information, but that you're listening for the story.
Yeah. I keyed in on that because I was like, oh, storytelling. Because when we hear a person's story, we actually become more empathic towards them because they're no longer a set of arguments to be broken down. But, the story gives us an understanding of why or how, they got to a place that they are today. And so I wonder, it made me just think of like, okay, as I listen for stories and ask people to tell their stories, what role does that play in cultivating an imagination of hospitality, especially with people we disagree with? Because then it's no longer an argument to be won, but they're a person in front of us. So no, I love that idea of that storytelling, because I think that's, and I think when we sit at the table, we hear the stories. I think, that's the power of the table. For me is people become less of a set of ideas, and you hear the story.
And I think it's probably important too to say a word about boundaries and listening. That there may be times where you invite somebody or you want to know and offer them hospitality, and it's unhelpful, not unhelpful, it's harmful.
Yeah.
And that it's harming you, and you are unable to sit with that person. And I think there is a place to talk about boundaries, not as walls
Mm-mm.
that never, allow anybody in, but as wisdom, as knowing oneself, and to be able to, if something, again, at a table, and we're, the holidays coming up, like you said, at
Right.
the table, something happens. I mean, there is the boundaries of being able to listening how somebody is treated or what is said. I think there is absolutely a place for that. And so I think it takes some discernment, and also maybe just some tools to kind of be ready for those things, because your desire is to hear, your desire is to listen, your desire is to cultivate this environment. But if somebody is impacting the environment in a negative way, then as the person who is hospitable, that is our responsibility to be able to go, okay, this is impacting the environment, and or what is happening here. And that person doesn't need to take over what is happening in this space.
No, I love that word about boundaries, because they are important, because I think, we want to be people of welcome, and, this unconditional positive regard that God shows us. I think there's something in us that we who love Jesus want to emulate, but there's also that place of boundaries and needing to keep, myself safe, but also, like, if you have a family, my wife, my girls, my kids, but sometimes and I'm curious, and sometimes we find ourselves where we don't know who's going to be there. And, we find ourselves, we can't create the boundary, but our boundaries were violated, maybe, So what can we do? Like, if we find ourselves in a situation that maybe we're not in control of, like, is there a place of how do we cultivate still hospitality without letting somebody harm us, when we're not in control of who we invite?
That's a great question, because we all get kind of blindsided or something comes up. I think, first of all, I would say the preparation you do before you show up to a place. And I think even your relationship with God, no matter whether you're showing up somewhere or not, like for our, not just identity, but our security, our sense of God's love for us, for that to be as rooted and grounded as possible. And that's what the spiritual practices really are. It's for our relationship with God. And so to be able to have that to be as strong as possible, so that when we get to those places where the unexpected happens, that it brushes us rather than bulldozes us, if that makes sense. And so it's not as strong. So I would say that just in general, our relationship with God allows us to stand firm, and also allows us not to be bulldozed, and only be brushed. So I would say that is a first thing. And I think so much of welcome and hospitality in general is preparation. So, but whether it's hospitality or not, that's just a good, to know our identity in Christ and know our belovedness. And the other thing I would say is that, that we just have natural responses to that. Some of us are going to get quiet and shy. Some of us are going to want to attack. Some of us we have all sorts of responses to something that's sudden. And so just to know that about yourself, be like, okay, this is just how and then to kind of say, okay, what should I do in that? So for one person, it might be, hey, I just need to step away I need to go to the restroom, excuse me for a second. Or if it's in a place where if you've got cool air, you can go out into the cool air. You can share it with somebody. You can talk to them about that. I would also say that to not let it have more power than that moment. And to be able to go, okay, I'm going to go back in. What do I want? And what do I want other people to have? And what do I want? You know what? I really wanted to connect with my niece, and I haven't been able to do that. I'm going to go focus on serving her. I'm going to go focus on being hospitable towards her, and kind of get out of yourself. If that makes sense. It's almost, I don't know, you have kids. It's almost like, when you would, the redirection.
Yes.
Sometimes it works, but it's almost like, okay, you're redirecting yourself. But knowing yourself enough to go, okay, I'm going to redirect, and I'm going to redirect and focus on somebody else.
I love that redirect. I love what you said about, hopefully there's a person in your life where you can almost debrief with, or like, even if you're single, maybe it's a friend afterwards, like, hey, I'm stepping into this space that I know may not be 100% safe for me. Like, can I talk to you afterwards? Like, can we talk on the phone, talk on Zoom, go out for a coffee, a drink? Like, you may need a stiff one after that family gathering, but like, hopefully it's just with a safe person that you can really just debrief with.
Yes. Yeah. That the connection with another safe human being when we've received that or encountered that is really, really critical.
No, it is. And an important aspect of hospitality that I think goes unnoticed, and you touched on it, and Priya Parker brings it up, is what's the importance of a good ending for hospitality? Like, because I think we think about the space we prepare, especially if it's in our home, right? Like, we create the space, we have everything ready, but then sometimes we don't think about an ending. But like, I think there's something super vital for a good ending. So like, how is concluding hospitality just as important as beginning hospitality?
Yeah, I think it's key, actually. And I think what it does is it allows for future possibility. And so, and it can be a simple word of gratitude. Even things like, people, walking you to the door goodbye or walking you to your car. I mean, those little things really mattered. I even remembered back before my husband and I were dating, we were all at a social thing and his younger sister was there and he walked her to the car afterwards, and it just said something to me about their relationship, so there is something about gratitude and about goodbyes. And they can be really powerful. And it's the hope of a continued relationship. Like I don't even know how to explain it, but what it does is it says, hey, I hope this happens again. Hey, I'm so glad you're here. And so it does that. And I think, I don't know, this is just me thinking about our sense of, in our culture, how quick people are to abandon or ghost or leave. And I just think it honors somebody and it helps. And maybe in some of those wounds as well.
Just that simple goodbye. Making sure whatever the situation is, ends well. I love it about the future possibilities, and continued, hopefully, developing of the relationship. But it's something we have to work on, because even like, as I think of my young girls, sometimes I have to tell them, hey, no, go say goodbye to your friends. Like, like, it's not something we all do naturally. It's something we have to, again, train ourselves for, just like we help our kids. Hey, no, go say goodbye, say thank you.
Yes.
It's
I
so
really
easy.
learned a lot about that. Sorry, it was from my
No, go ahead. Yeah,
I really learned a lot about that from my husband's side of the family. And they are celebrators. They show up for things, and they when I'm saying goodbye at a family gathering, because I'll probably see them, we live around each other, we'll probably see them, in another month or something. So it's not that. And so I'm usually like, all right, see ya. Like, I'm ready to get out the door. I got places to go, things to do, or kids to get ready for school. And, but they all they go around and they say bye. I mean, when they gather, it's about 25 people that all live around, and they go around and they'll say bye to everybody. And so I watch it and I go, they really love being together, and they look forward to the next time that they're together. And so it's been a really contrasting image for me of a family and of saying goodbye, and how much they really do delight and enjoy. And they have a really just close relationship with one another.
That's cool. Yeah. Because I know for myself, sometimes after a gathering, I'm like, I'm exhausted. I need to, I want to hole up. And so like you said, what your husband's family does to be intentional about saying goodbye to everybody, even though you're in close proximity. Like, we need those reminders and that stretching as we continue to develop what this posture of welcome looks like.
And I just want to say too, for the things that we've been talking about. And I really hope that you don't, that the listener is not like, okay, I've
Yeah.
got to apply all these things,
No.
or I've got to do all these things. I mean, these are just ideas and
Yeah.
just doesn't have to take over your life. And
No.
so hopefully they're hearing just of any of the things that we've talked about, whatever has piqued their interest or kind of caught their attention in their context, that they would try out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they would explore and see what might be possible.
Right. Because again, you're not going to, wherever you are on the journey, you're not going to just magically be infinitely better, by reading one book or just doing something like I think it's that what you invited us to earlier in the podcast of what's that one small step to begin to do. Like, this is a training, this is a practice that, you're not, it doesn't happen overnight. And so to think that you can be a completely different person with your family at the holidays is just ludicrous. We fall into that trap. We all do it, right? Like, oh, I'm going to be better. I'm going to bring my whole self to the holidays this year, whether it's a social gathering, whether it's a work gathering, where it's family, whatever it is. Like, oh no, I'm just going to step in and bring my whole self. But that may not be possible. And so, okay, where is that one step maybe you can take throughout November and December?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a question I ask all of my guests. What's the story you want the church to tell?
That we have a God that always welcomes you to come and will always move towards you. Like that God comes looking for us. And God welcomes us and wherever we are.
Yeah. I love it. And even if you're to bring it to the prodigal son parable, like whether you're the prodigal son or the elder son who's always stayed close, like the father comes looking.
Yeah. I think that's the great story of the gospel is that God, came looking.
Yeah. God
came looking. And that he always will.
Yeah. No, I love it. And so a few fun food questions to end with.
Yeah.
What's one food you refuse to eat?
Oh my gosh, sushi.
Okay.
There's a lot of foods I refuse to eat, but sushi especially.
Okay. Any particular reason?
Texture.
Okay.
I mean, flavor too, but texture especially. I just can't do it.
Okay. That's fair.
Some people love it. I mean, they're like, how can you not love sushi? I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah. Fair. Then on the other end of the spectrum, what's one of the best things you've ever eaten?
Oh my gosh. Gosh, it's pretty much like any good like breakfast food.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. Okay, there's a lot of things, but I'll just say there's one place here locally that actually the owner grew up down the street from us, and I didn't know that, but in Houston. So I mean, we found out he's up here, but he makes these cinnamon waffle. He makes waffles, then he fries them, and he puts cinnamon sugar on them, and then you have a drizzle on them. It's so good. So
gotcha.
Good.
Wow.
So cinnamon and sugar is like high on the list.
Okay, that's fair. Awesome. And finally, there's a conversation among chefs about last meals, as in if you knew you only had one more meal left to enjoy, what would it be? And so if Laura had one last meal to enjoy, what might be on her table?
That waffle.
Okay.
Yeah, just carbs. Just carbs and sugar. Yeah, no need for protein.
No. Okay.
No need to make it healthy. Put eggs in there.
Yep.
Just, I think that waffle.
Okay.
Now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Laura, I've really enjoyed this conversation. And if people are interested in learning more about your work or even with your digital silent retreats, where can they find you? Where can they connect and learn more about your work?
Yeah. So my website is laurabmurray.com. So you can go there and find out more. There's information there for you.
Awesome. And do pick up her newest book, Becoming a Person of Welcome. I think it's a delightful read. It's a book that I think will challenge you just to think through what it means to actually practice hospitality and to grow in that practice. So thank you, Laura, for joining me on this episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Andrew.
Yeah. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing it with others. Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Biggest Table, where we explore what it means to be transformed by God's love around the table and through food. Until next time, bye.